Well, that went surprisingly well. I thought that doing block pulls or rack pulls first and then doing barbell rows would go very, very poorly for me, but surprisingly went quite well. Very well, in fact. For some reason today with the block pulls, I didn't feel my lower back at all, like zero. What I felt though was mid-back, like those thoracic extensors, those erectors, no thoracic extensors, the erectors, like just underneath the scapula, the shoulder blades, like that muscle there, like it's so bulging right now as I'm sitting here talking. That really got fried today. So I don't know what's changed. Maybe the sit-ups have done something and have progressed my lower back, but the lower back was mint, no problem at all. Now it's the mid-back. And I'm wondering whether the mid-back got fried a bit more because of these, I don't know what to call them, like bouncing squats, bottom half squats, whatever you want to call them. I've done them 2 sessions now in 3 days, just to kind of, I don't know, get more practice into the bottom so I don't tip forward as much. I'll give this a try in the warm-ups as well, just to see how it goes, keep everything else the same, throw this in to see how it moves, how it teaches the body. Maybe it's going to do something, maybe it's not. But so far, it does pump my lower back, and it does pump the quads a little bit today. So I thought, after I did those bouncing squats, I thought when I went to the rack pull, I was going to really, really cop it because of that little pump. But no, the lower back was mint, absolutely mint. I had no trouble with controlling the lower back at all. Now it was going up the chain, and the mid back was the limiting factor. So it's kind of good. Like, anytime I have lower back pump, I kind of get not angry, but like, oh, here we go again kind of feeling, It's always the bloody lower back. I remember when I did the pin squats, the reason why I stopped the pin squats is because the lower back was just debilitating. The pump was just so severe, I couldn't even sit, walk, and do anything, man. It was that bad. So now, when I push these heavy weights and I don't feel the lower back, I genuinely feel happy, Anything else, man, you know how it is, man. It's like when you get used to one thing, man, you just want some change, man. Like even if you got pain in the knee forever, if that stops and you get pain in the hip, you're like, oh, thank God for that. It's something different, It's kind of like that. So today, the mid-back was the limiting factor, and it felt good. It felt really, really good because for me, I've said this, I've always said this, ever since the scare that I had when I was like 21 with the back injury, lower back. My number one priority is the lower back. I just don't like rounding there. I don't like compromising that structural integrity through there because we all know how common injuries are in the lower back. And once you blow your lower back, man, then it's freaking hard road back, man. It's the weakest portion of the spine other than the cervical spine, like the neck. That's the weakest thing, right? Like there's no bones, there's no ribs, there's nothing there. It's just an isolated bit of skeletal structure that's held by all these little discs, and then after that is just soft tissue, muscle, all that muscle. So this is why core is so important, because you need to support that little bit of an island that the spine is kind of sitting there, So when you collapse the thoracic spine, there's some structure there. It's very kind of, I don't want to say it's very uncommon, but it's much less uncommon to blow a disc in your thoracic spine because there's so much structural integrity there. There's so many like bones there, feeding into it and providing rigidity. And there's also the lungs. So you take a deep breath and, there's pressure forcing all that stuff out. So there's so much support there. Whereas the lower back, you don't have the ribs there. And so when I'm doing some of these heavy movements, as soon as I feel the lower back, like I'll tolerate a little bit of flexion, but there comes a point where if I feel like I'm hanging onto my back, like a fishing rod, just holding onto the freaking, resting on the bones, resting on the discs, everything else is kind of tapped out, I just quit. I don't want to do that. There's no point. I want the muscles to hold me. I want the structure to be fighting, not just completely, give up and surrender to the weight. If I do that, I've seen so many freaking videos of people lifting like that and normalizing that, and I'm like, okay, I understand. A lot of people say your spine's made to move that way. That's fine. I agree with that. But what your spine is not made is for complete collapsing of the spine and you resting on the discs while all the other muscles are just overpowered. That, my friend, is asking for trouble. It's like anything, like you don't run with your rolled ankles, right? You don't roll your ankles and run. Just because the ankle is made to also invert and evert and invert, that doesn't mean you run with, collapsed ankles. Like, you don't run like that. You run with the thing how it's supposed to freaking be. So this whole argument, your back, your neck is supposed to be going in all these different directions. That's cool, but we don't carry buckets by our ear. You don't do that, even though, yes, there is a range of motion there. So that argument I never understood. There is an optimal way to go about human movement. The way cars are made, there's a torque portion, there's a torque band. You can go out of that torque band, but you're not going to get the optimal performance. Yeah, sure, that's fine. But it's not going to go well. You might stall the engine. Oh, look at that. Why'd that happen? Even though it's made to go from 1,000 to 9,000 RPM. It doesn't really perform really well if you chuck it in the fifth gear and you start taking off with that. Rowing felt good. After all of that, rowing felt good, which is very surprising because the lower back is not demolished. So if the lower back is absolutely fried from doing pulls, then when you come to the barbell row, you can't even hold that position to do the rowing. So you're completely fried by then, and so then it becomes a joke. You can't do anything. But for me, today's rows felt amazing. So now, because I've kind of elongated the training program and I've got a quote unquote a rest day in between each session. So I'm kind of training hard every other day now. The in-between days are very, very kind of like chilled out, stretching, touch the barbell for 30 minutes and go. And so because of that, now the 5-day split becomes a 10-day split. And so now I have rows in my upper pull days and my lower pull days. Why? Well, because, man, I think that shit is number one for me. Number one. So now I technically do them every 5 days or so, something like that. And I like it that way. For all the other stuff, they can kind of chill. I'm happy. I feel like the number one thing for me right now is when I do train a particular body part, whether it's upper push, I can really go hard, I can really go heavy, and I can really kind of give it all I got. And then rest for a long time. I've never really done a split that long. I've never really done such a low frequency before, but it allows me to put everything in a squat every day type of environment. So I think it's good. I'm feeling good. On the off days, I really feel like I'm tired now. I wonder how much of that is just psychology, knowing that I don't have to push hard. Whether my CNS just kind of deregulates everything and I feel kind of tired because I'm not amped up. But whatever the case might be, I think it's going to be good to know that I have a easy day after a heavy day. Whereas a lot of the times in this training program, man, like on this training run, I've had I give everything I have to, let's say, the rack pulls or the block pulls today. And then tomorrow I know I have to do heavy bench and it's like, damn, And then it's like, okay, I might get a lot of sleep. But it just might not be enough. And then if I have a bad resus shift or if I have a night shift or something and I'm not even consciously stressed, but I'm stressed because it's busy at work or whatever else is going on in life, then I kind of carry that in and, I don't feel like I'm stressed, but obviously stress has happened. And then you kind of get, these fluctuations in performance and training and you're like, oh, damn, I wish I had a day off. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'll give this a couple of, 10-day cycles and see how it goes. Maybe a month or something like that. But the stuff that I really, really need to push is still going to get a lot of love. All that single leg stuff I'm doing every day. All that rowing stuff, I'm doing lots of volume, once every 5 days. So I'm in a really good spot right now. And I think this rowing is transferring really well because rows are feeling better and better and better. They really are feeling better. Now I can row a decent amount of weight even after a rack pull day, which is, I think it's really, really good. And like before, I've had lots of success with deadlifting and squatting when I really focus on rows. So the upper back, man, the upper back is something that I need to work on. Mix it up, the pronated, supinated, a little bit wider, a little bit more narrow grip. Just do it all, but row. That's the key. You got to row. Pull-ups, row. Row is where it's at for me. Appreciate you guys. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.